I gave my daughter a house as a wedding gift. A standalone villa in the quiet northern suburbs of Seattle. 3 bedrooms, wraparound porch, hardwood floors, and soft white walls that glowed with every shift of the sun. It wasn't just a house. It was a gesture, a symbol of hope. I wanted her marriage to begin with security, comfort, and dignity. Something beautiful, something she could build her life on. But the truth? That house became a battleground long before she ever said I do. I remember the day we finished the final renovations. Mark, my husband, had personally overseen every step, from the foundation work to the custom kitchen backsplash. We'd poured not just money, but months of planning and anticipation into that place. And when it was finally done, he could barely contain his excitement. "Come on, Linda," he said, practically pulling me by the arm. "You have to see the final touches. It's perfect." We arrived just past noon. The sky was clear, the air crisp. For once, everything felt aligned. That was until we stepped out of the car. Before I even crossed the threshold, I heard her. "Oh my God!" A high, nasal voice rang through the stillness. "Is this neighborhood a prison? Why are all the doors shut? It's like everyone here's in hiding. What kind of place is this?" I froze. Mark glanced at me, brow furrowed. Then came the next command. "Zach, go tell the neighbors to stop acting like they're in solitary confinement." "And what is that thing out front? A gate? With bars? What are we? Guarding a bank?" I didn't need to see her to know it was Donna Cooper, Zach's mother. I'd only met her twice before, and that was more than enough. Loud, opinionated, and completely void of self-awareness. I stepped into the foyer, my heels clicking softly against the new tile. That sound was immediately overshadowed by laughter coming from upstairs. A moment later, Rick Cooper's voice boomed down. "Now this is a room. Sunlight, view space. We'll take the master." I stood still, my hands clenched at my sides. That room was meant for Emma. It had a bay window facing the trees, the same kind she used to draw as a little girl when she said she wanted to live in a fairy tale house. We'd put a custom reading nook there just for her, and now it was being claimed by people who didn't even knock before barging in. Donna's voice floated down next. "Put Luca in the second bedroom. He needs the bigger space. Emma and Zach can take the one near the kitchen. It's easier for her to get up early and cook anyway." I didn't speak. I simply looked at Mark. His jaw was locked, his eyes cold. Inside the master bedroom, Donna was lying on the brand new duvet, legs crossed, shoes still on, grinding dirt into the pristine white fabric. Rick stood beside her, lighting a cigarette like it was his own damn house. And then, God help me, he pressed the cigarette out on the nightstand. A deep, black mark bloomed instantly against the polished wood. Emma wasn't there yet. This was their first move. And it was already a declaration of war. Emma wasn't naive. Or at least, that's what I used to tell myself. She had always been the kind of girl who read people well. Sharp, observant, just like her father. But when it came to Zachary Cooper, all of that seemed to vanish. Love has a way of clouding even the clearest vision, and in her case it was a full eclipse. They met during grad school. He was polite, soft-spoken, almost shy. Emma said he had an old soul. At first, I believed that might be a good thing. Someone grounded. Low drama. A balance to Emma's bright, driven personality. But Mark saw it quicker than I did. "He's playing a role," he told me one night after dinner. "The quiet type who disappears in crowds but listens too closely to the wrong things. Watch him." I did. And slowly the cracks appeared. Zach never offered to pay. Not for meals, not for movies, not for gas. Emma would wave it off. "He's still finding his footing, Mom." She covered for him in 100 little ways. When he showed up to our housewarming party empty-handed, she claimed he'd helped her plan the decorations. When she got herself a new phone, she told us it was a joint decision. Only later did I see the receipts. She'd bought it outright on her own birthday. Even the engagement ring had a quiet lie attached to it. A dainty sapphire solitaire, elegant and understated. I complimented at once. She smiled and said Zach picked it himself. That was a lie, too. She bought the ring. I found the bank statement weeks later while reviewing some documents with her. She hadn't meant for us to know. She just didn't want us to worry. And I understood that. I really did. Emma didn't want a life like mine, one filled with second-guessing and regret. She wanted to build something with someone. She wanted to believe in love. So we let her. We gave her the house. The villa on Greenwood Lane with the oak tree out front and the winding stone path Mark had designed himself. The kind of home that said, "You're safe now. You don't have to settle." We thought we were helping her. What we didn't know, what we couldn't have known, was that Zach's family saw that house as an invitation, not to support Emma, but to use her. I should have paid closer attention to that first dinner, the one we hosted a few months before the wedding. Cooper spent half the evening complaining about the wine, and the other half lecturing Emma on how real wives should prioritize family over work. "All this ambition," she said, swirling her glass like she was at a country club, "makes a woman hard to live with." Emma laughed it off. Rick stayed mostly silent, except for when he asked about our retirement accounts and hinted, half joking, of course, that we must be rolling in it if we could afford a house like that. Mark stared him down until he changed the subject, but nothing compared to what happened later that evening when we walked them to their car. Donna looked at the house one more time, then turned to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You know," she said, "it's nice of you to do this. Very generous. It's not every day someone gifts their daughter a whole house. But if you really want to help, maybe put it in Zach's name too. It's only fair." That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just about Emma. It was about what she came with, and they had every intention of taking it all. By the time Emma arrived at the house that afternoon, the Coopers had already made themselves comfortable. Too comfortable. Donna was rearranging throw pillows on the living room couch like it was her own. Rick had the television blaring, some old Western movie, and Dylan, Zach's older brother, was sprawled on the patio chair with his feet up, scrolling through his phone like he didn't have a care in the world. His wife, Brianna, was inspecting the kitchen cabinets, muttering something about how they'd need to replace the handles. Replace the handles. In a house they didn't own. I caught Mark's eye. He gave the faintest shake of his head. Not yet. Emma stepped inside, smiling nervously. "Hi," she said. "Everyone's settled in okay." Donna didn't even look up. "We figured it out," she said flatly, waving her hand toward the upstairs hallway. "Master bedroom's ours. It has the best light. Perfect for Rick's arthritis." I blinked. Emma froze. She glanced at Zach, who stood in the doorway behind her. His face was a blank slate. "Wait," Emma said gently. "You're staying in the master bedroom." Donna finally turned to look at her. "Of course. We're older. Rick needs the space. Besides, you two are young. You'll manage just fine downstairs." Rick chimed in from the couch. "And we'll need the bigger closet for our things. We didn't pack light." My nails pressed into my palm. Emma's voice stayed calm. "Actually, the room upstairs was meant for Zach and me." "Oh, sweetheart," Donna interrupted, her voice syrupy. "You've got plenty of time to enjoy the big rooms. We won't be here forever, just until Dylan and Brianna get back on their feet." That was the first time I heard it. Dylan and Brianna? Emma blinked. "Wait, what do you mean? I thought they lived in Tacoma." "Not anymore," Donna said, waving it off like a formality. "They're between leases. We figured this house is big enough. No sense in them wasting money on rent when we've got all this space sitting empty." She said it like the decision had already been made. No questions asked. No permission requested. Rick leaned forward, his voice casual. "We're thinking of putting the house in Dylan's name. That way Mason, their grandson, will have stability when he starts kindergarten here." Emma stood still, mouth slightly open, eyes flickering from face to face. I took a step forward, but Mark's hand touched my wrist. Not yet. Let her speak. Wait, Emma said slowly. This is still my house. My parents bought it for me. Rick shrugged. But you're marrying Zach. What's yours is his, and what's his is the family's. That's how marriage works. Donna smiled. And you don't even have kids yet. Why let perfectly good rooms go to waste? I saw it in Emma's face, confusion melting into realization. It was like watching a storm roll across her eyes. She'd been trying so desperately to make this work, to smile through the tension, to keep the peace. But now she understood. They weren't just visiting. They were moving in, laying claim, rewriting the rules before the ink on the marriage license had even dried. Emma opened her mouth to respond, then stopped. Her voice had caught in her throat. Zach stepped forward, finally speaking. It's not a big deal, babe. They're just staying a while. We'll still have space. You don't need to make it into something it's not. She turned to him, slowly. Her voice was quieter than I'd ever heard it. I'm not making anything, Zach. I'm just seeing things for what they really are. For a moment, no one spoke. The silence was thick, dense with unspoken rules, expectations, and the quiet sound of something breaking inside my daughter. Then Donna snorted. You're seeing things for what they are, she repeated, mimicking Emma's tone. Please, you're acting like we're looting your palace. It's just a house, a big one, and you're not even using most of it. Emma lifted her chin. That's not the point. Oh, I think it is, Rick said, standing now, arms crossed over his gut. You're young. You've never run a household. What do you even know about managing a home this size? Dylan piped in from the hallway. Yeah, not to mention your job takes up all your time. You can't work 80 hours a week and expect to keep a place like this from falling apart. I could see Emma's throat tighten. Her jaw flexed. Then her voice came out, soft but deliberate. If you want to live here, pay rent, cover the bills, clean up after yourselves. Otherwise, you're guests. Temporary. Donna's face darkened. Zach stepped forward so fast it startled even Rick. Emma, he snapped. That was completely out of line. His forehead was red, his voice shaking. You need to apologize to them. Right now. Emma looked at him like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. I need to apologize, she repeated. Yes, he shouted, his voice cracking. They're my parents. You don't talk to them like that. Donna smirked, arms folded, triumphant. This is what happens when a girl's raised with too much. No humility, no respect. Rick lit another cigarette, exhaled slowly in our direction. You know, Mark, Linda, I have to ask, how exactly did you raise your daughter? That was it. Mark moved before I did. 1 second, Rick was standing. The next, he was on the floor, choking on his own breath, a dark bloom already spreading across his cheek. The cigarette rolled across the wood floor and died out beside his shoe. Donna screamed. You're insane. That was assault. Mark stood over him, his voice low, sharp and steady. Say another word, he said, and you won't make it out of this house. The room fell into dead silence. Zach's face had gone completely white. He didn't move, didn't blink. I stepped forward. Your son, I said, locking eyes with him, brought nothing into this marriage. No money, no stability, no future. My daughter paid for everything, from the phone in his pocket to the meals on his table. She bought her own ring just to save him the shame. And now he stands here, demanding that she apologize. Zach's voice came out barely above a whisper. I only said that because she disrespected my parents. Mark turned his gaze to him. You think she disrespected them? After everything they've done? No. What she did was hold up a mirror. Then he turned to Donna. And if any of you had the decency to look into it, you'd see exactly what kind of leeches you are. I watched as the power shifted. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was in the stillness, the silence that followed, the way Emma's shoulders straightened and Zach's hunched in. She wasn't shrinking anymore. They were. Emma stood still for a long moment. Her hands were shaking, but her voice, when it finally came, was steady. "You're right," she said softly, not to Mark or me, but to Zach. "This isn't working." He blinked. "What?" She looked at his parents, then back at him. "This was never going to work. I've been clinging to the idea of us, hoping it would change. But it won't." "You don't mean that," he said quickly, stepping toward her. "You're upset. My dad just got hit. It's chaotic right now. You're not thinking straight." "I'm thinking more clearly than I ever have," she replied. "I ignored everything. The way your parents talked to me, the way you never stood up for me. I convinced myself it was temporary, that it would get better." Rick groaned from the floor, still rubbing his jaw. "She's lost it," Donna hissed through her teeth. "Don't throw away your future because of one bad day, Emma. You'll regret this. You're not going to find someone else willing to accept you once the world knows what kind of girl you really are." Emma turned to her slowly, her expression unreadable. "You mean someone who tolerates being disrespected? Used? Controlled? You're right. I hope I never find someone like that again." Zach opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Mark folded his arms. I stayed quiet, letting her own this moment. "I was so scared of disappointing you," Emma said, her voice quieter now, looking directly at Zach. "I thought if I was patient enough, kind enough, you'd become the man I imagined. But all you did was take. And when I finally asked for respect, you told me to apologize." He looked like he might cry. "I didn't mean it like that. I was trying to keep peace." "You were keeping silence," she said, "not peace." For a long time, no one moved. Then Zach took a small step back, like he was trying to make space for some version of himself that could fix this. "Please," he said, "can we just talk privately?" Emma shook her head. "There's nothing left to say." Donna scoffed. "You think this makes you powerful? Walking away with your nose in the air." "No," Emma said. "I think it makes me free." She turned to me. "I'll stay with you and Dad for now, just until I figure out my next move." Mark nodded. "You'll have all the space you need." As we turned to leave, I caught Zach's voice behind us, low and bitter. "You're just going to throw everything away?" Emma paused at the door. She didn't turn around. She just said, "There's nothing left to throw." 3 days passed. Emma moved back into our house like a ghost, quiet, efficient, avoiding unnecessary conversations. She packed only what she needed. Her laptop, a few clothes, a stack of unread books. Everything else she left behind in the villa, including Zach. We thought that was it, the end. But men like Zach don't like being left, especially not when they think the world owes them something. It started with texts from unknown numbers. Then came a voicemail that Emma never listened to, just forwarded straight to me. I sat on the edge of the bed, listening to his voice as it cracked under the weight of self-pity. "Emma, I know I messed up. I was just trying to keep things together. My parents, they're a lot, but I didn't want to disappoint them. Please don't throw this away. I love you. We can fix this." I deleted the message without a word, but he didn't stop there. The following week, Emma came home from work, her shoulders hunched like something heavy was clinging to her. She didn't say anything, just placed her bag down on the counter, pulled out her phone and handed it to me. An email from Zach to her entire department. In it, he accused Emma of financial manipulation, said she'd used his money to pay for personal expenses, that she was living off his generosity, and now refusing to repay the debt. He attached a screenshot of a fabricated loan agreement and claimed she owed him $2,897.36. I felt my hands curl into fists. Emma stared at the floor. I already blocked him on everything. I don't know how he found my work email. Because people like him don't know how to lose, I said. That night, we printed the email, drove straight to her office, and requested a meeting with her supervisor, a man named Howard, mid-40s, polite, neutral smile. He glanced between the two of us, clearly unsure what storm had just arrived. "Can you tell me what's going on?" he asked. I handed him the printout. He read in silence. Then I pulled something from my bag, a checkbook. With calm, deliberate strokes, I wrote out a check for exactly $3,000, tore it cleanly from the pad, held it up so he could see the amount, and then I let it fall. The check fluttered through the air like a final verdict, landing at Zach's feet. "There," I said. "Every penny you claim she owes. Paid in full." Gasps echoed around the office. A few co-workers had gathered near the door, eyes wide, phones lowered, but clearly ready to record if things escalated. Donna, who had followed Zach like a loyal hound, lunged forward to snatch the check. For a second, she looked victorious, like she'd won something. But the silence that followed wasn't admiration. It was humiliation. Then someone laughed. A single, sharp burst. And like dominoes falling, the rest joined in. "Wait," someone said. "This whole thing is over less than $3,000. I thought she owed him like thousands, or tens of thousands." Another voice. "Dude really wrote that whole novel for $2,800? Get over it." Donna's face flushed red. Zach looked like he wanted to vanish into the floor. And then Emma, my strong, steady Emma, finally lifted her chin. "Are we done here?" she said to Howard, voice cold but professional. He nodded. "We're done. And this," he held up the email, "will be reported to HR." Zach opened his mouth, tried to say something, but Emma was already walking away. And this time he didn't follow. I wish I could say Zach gave up after that, that the check, the humiliation, the warning from HR would have been enough. But men like Zach don't know how to walk away. They don't just lose. They try to infect whatever they can't control. It began subtly, like mold under fresh paint. Emma got an anonymous message on social media. No profile picture, no name, just a string of cruel words and a grainy photo of her laughing with coworkers, twisted out of context. Then another account appeared, posting old pictures from when she and Zach were still together. One of her sitting beside him at dinner, the caption, "Some people take and take, then act like victims." They cropped Zach out, but the message was clear. "I blocked them," she said to me over breakfast, hands tight around her coffee mug, "but they keep making new ones." I took the phone from her, scrolled through the posts. The language wasn't just familiar, it was Zach's. The way he phrased things, the passive-aggressive tone masked in self-righteousness. He was using her own memories as weapons. She looked exhausted, not sad, just tired, like grief had turned to dust and settled in her bones. "I don't understand," she said. "I left. I didn't ask for anything. I just wanted peace." I reached across the table and took her hand. "You didn't take anything from him, Emma. You just stopped letting him take from you." She nodded, but her grip tightened. That afternoon, she received an email from a newly made address. No subject line, just a wall of text. The final lines read, "I know I messed up. I shouldn't have listened to my parents. I just want to start over. If you don't come back, I don't know what I might do to myself. You were my only light. Don't leave me in the dark." It wasn't an apology. It was emotional blackmail. I watched her read it, her lips pressed into a hard line. Then she whispered, "This is the third one." That was enough. I stood up, grabbed my coat, and said, "We're going to the courthouse." We didn't speak much during the drive. She just stared out the window, the letter still clutched in her hands like something she wasn't sure whether to burn or frame as evidence. Inside the courthouse, she was quiet, focused, answered the questions clearly, signed every line without hesitation. When they handed her the paperwork for the restraining order, her fingers trembled slightly. "I didn't want it to get this far," she said as we stepped outside. You didn't make it get this far, I told her. He did. She nodded, and for the first time in days, I saw something shift in her posture. Not confidence, not yet, but resolve. That night, she sat in her room with the curtains drawn back, laptop open, and began to type. She wasn't writing a journal. She was filing a formal complaint with the police, with HR, with anyone who needed to know that Zach Cooper wasn't just a bitter ex. He was becoming a threat. And for once, she wasn't afraid of being seen as the villain in his story, because finally she understood he was never the victim, and she was never the villain. Healing doesn't come with a bang. It comes slowly, like sunlight returning after weeks of gray. Quiet, hesitant. At first, you don't even notice it's happening. But one day, you stop holding your breath. And that's how it began for Emma. She didn't talk about Zach anymore. Didn't flinch when his name came up in conversation. She simply kept moving through the motions of work, of rebuilding herself, of learning to breathe without guilt. She started arriving at the office earlier, stayed later, took on more responsibility, not to impress anyone, but to remind herself of what she was capable of. Her focus returned with an edge sharper than I'd ever seen. She was no longer trying to prove her worth to anyone. She just wanted to own it. That's when the invitation came. The Regional Business Conference in Portland, 4 days, all expenses paid. Granite & Co. wanted Emma to represent the firm. She didn't ask for it. They chose her. She almost said no. You should go, I told her that night over dinner. Not to run away, but to show up for yourself. She looked at me. What if I see someone I know? Then let them see you winning. So she went, and on the 3rd day I got a call. Not from her, but from someone named Daniel Parker. He introduced himself politely, said he met Emma during a panel discussion on leadership, that they'd exchanged business cards, that she had impressed him. She mentioned you raised her, he said. I just wanted to say you did a damn good job. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just smiled into the phone. Thank you. When Emma came home, she didn't gush. She didn't tell me she met someone. She just placed a small envelope on the kitchen counter and went upstairs. Inside was a note. Emma, thank you for the clarity, the fire, and the quiet confidence you brought to that room. I learned more from your presentation than I have from most books. Enclosed is one I think you might enjoy. No pressure, just respect. And below it, a hardcover on leadership and strategy. She didn't say anything for 3 days. Then one morning, as we were both standing by the kitchen window, coffee in hand, I asked, So, Daniel? She shrugged. He listens. That's all. But it was enough. Weeks passed. They met again. This time not at a conference, but over dinner. A quiet restaurant. No grand gestures. Just real conversation. Emma told him everything. About Zach, the Coopers, the restraining order. And he didn't flinch. He didn't judge. He just listened. And a few nights later, he invited her home to meet his parents, Edward and Grace Parker. Gracious, intelligent, kind. They didn't interrogate her, didn't ask how much money she made, or whether she could cook. They simply asked how she liked her coffee. That night, Grace made a lemon tart from scratch, and as she served it, she smiled and said, This is the first time Ethan has brought someone home. We wanted to make it special. Emma blinked. Ethan. Daniel laughed. Full name. You'll get used to it. Later that evening, as she told me the story, there was a softness in her voice I hadn't heard in months. She wasn't falling fast. She wasn't desperate to be loved. She was letting herself be seen. For who she was, not what she could give. It happened outside the conference center parking lot, just after sunset. Emma had just said goodbye to Daniel and his parents. She was walking to her car, heels clicking softly on the pavement, her blazer slung over one shoulder. Her face was calm, unreadable, until a shadow stepped out from behind the concrete pillar. Zach. She stopped in her tracks. Her fingers tightened instinctively around her car keys. He looked thinner than before. Pale. tired, but his eyes hadn't changed. Still sharp, still bitter. You were planning this all along, weren't you? He said, his voice low, accusatory. Already with him while you were still with me. Emma stared at him like he was a stranger. No, Zach, that's what you would have done. Not me. He took a step closer. He's not better than me. She didn't move. Yes, he is. His jaw clenched. You can't just walk away like this. After everything, I already did, she said. He laughed, a bitter sound that cracked in his throat. You think you're untouchable now? Because some other guy likes you. Emma's voice turned to steel. No, because I survived you. He stepped forward again. Too fast, too close. You're not finished with me, Emma. You can't be. I'm still here. A new voice cut through the tension like a knife. Step away from her. Daniel. He had been watching from across the parking lot, waiting by his car. Now he stood beside Emma, calm, composed, but not passive. His gaze was locked on Zach, his presence firm and unshakable. Zach's eyes darted between them. For a second, he looked like he might lunge, like his ego might finally push him over the edge. Emma raised her phone. I have a restraining order, Zach. If you don't leave now, I'll call the police. He froze. His hands twitched. His lips parted, like he wanted to say something else, but there was nothing left. The weight of it hit him all at once. Emma wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't hurt. She was simply done. And that terrified him more than anything. He looked at Daniel one last time, then back at her. There was a flicker of something behind his eyes. Regret, maybe. Or maybe just the bitter realization that she had finally become someone he couldn't reach. Then he turned around and walked away. No parting words. No drama. Just silence. As they watched him disappear into the shadows, Daniel exhaled slowly. Are you okay? Emma nodded, not looking away. I am now. They walked to her car. Steps slow, measured. No need to rush. The storm had passed, and Zach Cooper, he was left standing in a different world, a colder one, a smaller one, where no one owed him anything anymore, where no one looked back. It happened outside the conference center parking lot, just after sunset. Emma had just said goodbye to Daniel and his parents. She was walking to her car, heels clicking softly on the pavement, her blazer slung over one shoulder. Her face was calm, unreadable, until a shadow stepped out from behind the concrete pillar. Zach. She stopped in her tracks. Her fingers tightened instinctively around her car keys. He looked thinner than before. Pale, tired, but his eyes hadn't changed. Still sharp, still bitter. You were planning this all along, weren't you? He said, his voice low, accusatory. Already with him while you were still with me. Emma stared at him like he was a stranger. No, Zach, that's what you would have done. Not me. He took a step closer. He's not better than me. She didn't move. Yes, he is. His jaw clenched. You can't just walk away like this. After everything, I already did, she said. He laughed, a bitter sound that cracked in his throat. You think you're untouchable now? Because some other guy likes you. Emma's voice turned to steel. No, because I survived you. He stepped forward again. Too fast, too close. You're not finished with me, Emma. You can't be. I'm still here. A new voice cut through the tension like a knife. Step away from her. Daniel. He had been watching from across the parking lot, waiting by his car. Now he stood beside Emma, calm, composed, but not passive. His gaze was locked on Zach, his presence firm and unshakable. Zach's eyes darted between them. For a second, he looked like he might lunge, like his ego might finally push him over the edge. Emma raised her phone. I have a restraining order, Zach. If you don't leave now, I'll call the police. He froze. His hands twitched. His lips parted, like he wanted to say something else, but there was nothing left. The weight of it hit him all at once. Emma wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't hurt. She was simply done. And that terrified him more than anything. He looked at Daniel one last time, then back at her. There was a flicker of something behind his eyes. Regret, maybe. Or maybe just the bitter realization that she had finally become someone he couldn't reach. Then he turned around and walked away. No parting words. No drama. Just silence. As they watched him disappear into the shadows, Daniel exhaled slowly. "Are you okay?" Emma nodded, not looking away. "I am now." They walked to her car, steps slow, measured. No need to rush. The storm had passed. And Zach Cooper, he was left standing in a different world. A colder one. A smaller one. Where no one owed him anything anymore. Where no one looked back. After everything, we didn't celebrate. There was no champagne. No triumphant music playing in the background. Just a quiet evening, the kind that seeps into your bones and tells you that you're finally safe. Emma and I took a walk after dinner. Just the two of us. The path behind our house was narrow, lined with gravel that crunched softly beneath our feet. Above us, the trees swayed gently in the breeze, their shadows stretching long under the golden light. She didn't say much at first. Neither did I. We didn't need to. The silence wasn't awkward anymore. It was restful. I glanced at her as we walked, her face calm, focused. There was no tension in her shoulders, no weight in her step. She moved like someone who had finally stopped dragging ghosts behind her. "I think it's different for everyone," I said, breaking the silence, "but for me, it's peace." She raised an eyebrow. "Not happiness." I shook my head. "Happiness is tricky. Sometimes it's just someone else's expectations, or a moment that passes before you can hold on to it. But peace, that's something you build for yourself, slowly, intentionally, brick by brick, and when you finally have it, you don't trade it for anything." She was quiet for a long moment, letting the words settle. Then she said softly, "I used to think love could overcome everything." I looked at her. "When I first met Zach," she continued, "he was quiet, reserved, he carried himself like someone older, someone in control. I thought that was depth. I mistook his frugality for discipline, his silence for strength. Even when my friends warned me, I told myself they didn't understand him, that I did." She paused, her voice steady, not bitter. "The first time he took me to dinner, it was a fast food chain. He ordered the cheapest meal and told me not to go overboard. I thought it was cute, thoughtful, practical. But that was just the beginning." I didn't interrupt. She needed this. "The first time I visited his home, Donna barely looked at me before asking if I could cook, then added, 'City girls don't belong in kitchens,' and I laughed, thinking she was joking. I offered to learn. She didn't smile. She just nodded like she was checking off a box. She took a breath, not deep, just enough. I kept giving. My patience, my time, my savings, my voice. I quieted myself to keep the peace, to be easy, to not make waves. And in the end, I was drowning. I reached over and took her hand. "But you came up for air." She nodded, eyes soft. "I did, and I'll never go back." We walked a little further, the path curving gently toward the water. The lake shimmered in the fading light, still and wide. I looked at my daughter, this woman beside me, and I didn't see the girl who once cried herself to sleep over a man who couldn't love her properly. I saw someone reborn in silence, in resolve, in knowing she didn't have to settle for pain disguised as loyalty. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't hurt. She was simply done. And from where I stood, that was more powerful than any revenge. Because peace, real peace, isn't loud, it isn't public, it doesn't need applause. It just is.